This presentation will focus on document 5, causes of deforestation. And remember, we're looking at the question, should the Brazilian government develop the Amazon rainforest? Remember, there's a few things that we have to do in this document before we actually start looking at it. One of the biggest things is that we want to go through and we want to text mark the document or annotate it. If we look at where this document is from, it's from the destruction of the rainforest at mongobay.com. Note, other in this document right here, that 2% includes fire, mining, urbanization, road construction, and dams. The title of this chart is Causes of the Deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon. And this is from 2000 to 2005. So it gives us a nice 5-year snapshot of what's going on. And it is also fairly current. We might start looking at this saying it's a decade ago, where has it gone from there? But it's fairly current, so we can start to rely on this information a little bit. Now, when we look at this pie chart, one of the things that we'll notice is that the largest portion of this pie chart over here, 65%, is used up by the cattle ranchers. And many of you may be wondering, why do cattle ranchers use so much of the rainforest? The problem being is that the cattle require so much land to graze on that they're constantly moving them around. And so what the cattle ranchers have to do is cut out large tracts of land for those cattle to keep on moving. Here we see those small-scale agricultural, something that might be used by those settlers that you learned about last week. They're using about 20% of the land. Large-scale agriculture is only representing about 10%. Those will be your commercial farmers. Loggers, which is surprising, only represent about 3% of the population, or 3% of the deforestation, and 2% is that other. That includes fire, mining, urbanization, road construction, and dams. If we start looking at the questions, the first question says, what are the 3 leading causes of deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon and their percentages? So we would start out here by saying the cattle ranchers. And 65%. Then we would go in and we'd say small scale agriculture, and they represent 20%. And then large scale, and they represent 10%. So based on that information, we see that cattle ranchers are using the most. Now, number 2 says, how could this document use to be answer the question, should the Brazilian government develop the rainforest? Well, we know that the Brazilian government is already developing the rainforest, and this graph shows us that. All right, but maybe we can start using this diagram to say, you know what, we can develop it just in smarter ways. For example, maybe if we remove the cattle ranchers in this 65% category, this other group does not maybe seem so bad. That 35% that is still using it might not seem so bad. So maybe in here we're going to say, yes, we should, but let's remove the cattle ranchers because they use the most at 65%. That's a viable option that we can use in this. In this no category, we're going to say, hey, listen, this is an environmental situation that we're looking at. This is environmental, and this is having a detrimental effect. We see that all of these groups are contributing to that deforestation. And the worst one is the cattle ranchers. These guys are clearing huge tracts of land, and they're not even using it for the logs. They're not even using it for the trees. They're using it so that their cattle can graze. Now, what we don't know from this chart is, are the cattle ranchers and the loggers working together? Are the loggers clearing it and then the cattle ranchers then going in and using it afterwards, or are the cattle ranchers just clearing this land, removing the trees, and not using them for anything else? If that's the situation, then we have a serious problem. From our book, we learned that in some cases the cattle ranchers go in and use what the loggers have, but not in all cases. So we can't be sure about that. So that is maybe another cause. That's maybe another no that we could use in here. In any case, we see that this is still a document, although it seems pretty clear in one way, this is still a document. If we search, we can use one way or the other.